The Newshour 10 Agenda.
Viewers, instant cricket is the flavor of the day. It is suited for TV. Its capacity to throw up definitive results in a few hours makes it ideal entertainment in a world where the demands of work often count down the time for entertainment. In a world where everyone wants to be instantly gratified, the 5-day test, the saga version of cricket, is feeling the pressure. Fewer people watch games at playgrounds, 5-day games that is, and even fewer sit 9 hours in front of a telly for 5 days to watch a game that may not end in a result. All too often it ends in a draw, leaves many people confused. The question then is, the 5-day cricket, the ultimate, purest cricket, in danger? And who better to speak about this than a man who exemplifies all the qualities that go into making 5-day cricket the apex of the game. I won't use the word gentleman's game anymore because many women also play cricket. But viewers, one can't deny that it does encapsulate certain attributes which I don't think people lacking can measure up on a 5-day, I don't know what to call it, but a marathon, a challenge. Sanjay Manjrekar, we've seen you grind down sides. We've seen you save matches, turning them into draws, which is sometimes a bigger victory than a victory itself. Now, I want to just ask you this. Why does Sanjay Manjrekar and a lot of perhaps the most leading cricketers in the world swear by 5-day cricket and not the audience? What's happening here?
Right, you're quite right to introduce me as somebody who is a model, test cricketer, somebody who can talk on test cricket, but I've also been a realist. And over the years, since I've quit cricket, I've realized that, test cricket as a format has become pretty irrelevant. Tastes are changing and test cricket remains the same. I mean, in this day and age of fast downloads and fast everything, as you said, we have a format where a match can go on to 5 days and at the end of it, you may not get a result. And more importantly, it's something I wrote a long time back, that if test cricket was a corner shop, it would have been shut down a long time back because it's just not making money. The product is not selling. It's just that the other formats are driving the revenues, and you're able to make test cricket sustainable because of the revenue that you earn from other formats. So having been a test cricketer myself, I played a bit of white ball cricket as well, and Hong Kong sixes, which was about 4 overs. So 16 overs lesser than T20 cricket. But you're quite right. It is a topic that needs to be discussed, addressed.
Well, what you say obviously is from a, as you say, realistic, pragmatic point of view. But when it comes to test cricket, usually emotions get involved. I mean, you see these players charging in day out, 5 days. You see the theatre of it. I mean, look at what the series against Australia did for test cricket just recently, where India, against all odds, with a bench strength really, defeated one of the powerhouses of the game. Now, surely those stories are still relevant and they need to be told.
And it's interesting that test cricket's performances are remembered and they resonate a lot more than a great T20 innings, which is forgotten 48 hours later. Test cricket performances are remembered for longer. Even the modern young audiences realize that a successful test cricketer is somebody special. Look at Rohit Sharma's stocks in recent times. They've really gone up because of the incredible test success that he had in England. And the other thing these people might be following T20 cricket, 50 overs cricket, but they keep an eye open on Test cricket, and they also know that getting runs overseas for an Indian batter in Test cricket is the ultimate challenge. So Rohit Sharma, who's been a very successful 50 overs cricketer, 500s in the last 50 overs World Cup, but it needed him to be a raging success in England to be now finally be acknowledged as one of the formidable top order batters, and immediately he's been rewarded with captaincy, vice captaincy, and stuff like that. So, Test cricket performances are valued, are remembered, but as I said, it's not the most popular format. Not too many people sit in front of the television and watch each and every ball. It still leaves a mark.
Well, I mean, then expand this conversation. It's very interesting because you've sort of said that you judge the mettle of a player by seeing him perform in this caldera, 5-day caldera. Now, if that is indeed the case, then surely the future of Test cricket will be safe. Maybe you won't have a profusion of tests, but you might have limited series. And we've also, interestingly, branched out into this sort of World Cup for Test cricket also, which is an counterintuitive move, would you not say?
Yes, see, it's easy for the administrators to keep running Test cricket because you'll have revenues coming from other formats, and that will help people prop up Test cricket and keep it alive. On its own as a product, if you want to buy just Test cricket rights and make money out of it, it's not a sustainable business model. But because there is interest, it's not like people are playing Test cricket and nobody's interested. Not too many people are watching, but everybody knows what's happening in Test cricket. In many ways, Test cricket offers you a lot more other things. For example, T20 cricket, IPL, and 50 overs cricket, they have the surprises. There are these incredible turnarounds, but it still goes on very familiar script, which doesn't happen with Test cricket. So India winning that series in Australia, who would have thought, after they were all out 36 in the first Test match in the pink ball test, that this would happen. So Test cricket brings a lot more surprises over a period of time. And in many ways is a reflection of life, isn't it, Rahul? You get a second chance in Test cricket. India lost the T20 World Cup because they lost 2 games. But in a Test series, you could lose the first couple of Test matches. You could have 10 bad days, but you can come back in the next 15 days and win the series. So in many ways, Test cricket is a reflection of life. It's tough, but it gives you second chances as a team, as players.
So let me ask you, do you believe the ICC Test Championship was the need of the hour because it provides, Test cricket with some context?
Absolutely. And it was overdue. And you have to be understanding of the constraints that the ICC have to work within because they've got to get all the countries playing equal number of matches, make it a level playing field. But India will not let go of a marquee series, playing against England. If Pakistan was playing against India, they would have that series going on every second year. The Ashes have to go on. So it's not easy for the ICC, which itself is a group of all cricket boards, to have a very level playing field and have a Test championship that is, fair. But I was glad that it finally happened. And look at the viewership that the India-New Zealand World Test Championship final had. A lot of people might be wondering why New Zealand and why India, was it fair to the other team? But more people watched it because there was some kind of, extra interest. The platform was just that much more important than just random Test cricket and 50 overs cricket that gets played throughout the cricketing calendar.
So let me ask you, do you believe, as a purist, there has been a decline in Test cricket, the quality of the game? Many people say that, look, today players have become a lot more adventurous. They're not waiting for the ball. I'm now going to betray some of my ignorance. They don't wait for the ball to come to them. They fish outside the off stump. They want to go for the big flashy strokes, and they make a bit of a mockery of the game. Then you also have, restrictions on bowlers, and you can't do this, you can't bowl so many bouncers, etc., etc. It's sort of diluted the equity of Test cricket. Do you agree with that, or do you think if we went back to the good old wild days where Douglas Jardine lined up the leg side and said, okay, we're just going to charge down, or when the West Indies came down, tearing down the pitch and bowled 6 bounces in a row, that was more exciting.
That's unlikely to happen after we've had a death, on the cricket field recently. It's become even more difficult to have anything in the game that is going to be life-threatening. So bottom line and all that won't happen again. But having said that, you still see a lot of courage being shown. Hanuma Vihari batting for 4 hours with a wounded leg to save a test match in Australia is something that we remember of late. Pujara, just when he was taking those body blows in that final test match that India won, the Rishabh Pant test match, I think in Brisbane. All those are still stories of valor and courage what test cricket stands for. But the biggest problem and the reality of test cricket going forward is that the quality will diminish. It's inevitable. It's something that we have to accept, only because the kids that are growing up today aren't playing with the aim of becoming an exceptional test player. When I was growing up, or the generation just after me, the Dravids and the Lakshmans, they wanted to be great test players. Kids today have other options and whatever. You can't fault a performer if there is a platform where there is more visibility and more revenue coming out of that platform. He's going to vie to be on that platform. And that's the problem with test cricket. It's tough to get there. It's tough to be successful. And at the end of it, when you know that not too many people are watching this, and the revenues in the end, we are living in a capitalist economy. Eventually, if there is just not enough compensation or rewards for the work that you put in, not many people are going to get attracted to it. And as a result, it's only natural that the quality will keep going down. And I see that happening in the last 3-4 years, that it will go down steadily.
So there's also a supply side problem here. You could come back to your corner shop, sort of more economic analogy. There's a supply side problem because sooner than later, you might not have cricketers who are willing to play the 5-day game. Do you see that?
Absolutely. If you just keep reading the news, just watch how many people opt out of an IPL because of injury, and see how many players opt out of a test series because of injury. It's an easy choice. If you've got a little niggle, you give that a rest during a test series. T20 cricket and the private leagues, you want to be as fit as a fiddle. And that is something that is there for everyone to see, that you know exactly what the priorities of the players are, and you can't fault them one bit. I hate this argument where people say, it's the pride, to be playing for India, and money doesn't matter. All that, is futile. That kind of an expectation or argument. You've got to make, if you want to make Test cricket attractive for players, viewership, I don't think is suddenly going to become like it was in the past. If you see the pictures, Rahul, of Test cricket of the 60s and 70s, black and white pictures that you get to see, you see how crowded the stands were.
Yeah.
People squeezing, and that's never going to happen because the format is just not relevant, or it doesn't connect with the modern audiences. But you can still make cricket as a platform that everyone is clamoring to play on by making it financially lucrative. And it's something that I said on another platform when there were CEOs of cricket boards there, that if you're making a lot of money here, take some of that money and make that, put that money into Test cricket as a reward for that player, for the Pujara who will bat for 2 hours, Hanuma Vihari for 4 hours. At the end of it, they're also financially rewarded because everyone remembers those performances. They may not become the biggest stars along with the Pollards and the others that you see in T20 cricket, but at least there's a financial reward. At least they'll be rich Test cricketers.
Sanjay Manjrekar, let me ask you this, and this is an important question. Look, lots of players have come out and, you've been a part of those conversations. Sachin Tendulkar has been part of those conversations. Remember some of the debates you've had, sometimes even in TV studios. And I want to ask you this. Many people are saying, how about a 4-day game? Or, bring in a set of new rules which make Test cricket a little more sped up, a little more, active. What are these innovations that we could do which could perhaps save the longer version and bring people back, or at least generate or regenerate interest?
See, 4-day test match is a good suggestion, and Stephen Fleming was one of the advocates of that, and he made a very good point that he said, start a test match on Thursday, so you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the climax of the test match happens on a Sunday. More people come and watch. More people can sit in front of the television and keep watching. So it makes a lot of sense. But then, if you're playing a 4-day test match in Sri Lanka or England, and if you have a rained off day, then what happens? Then you have maybe a reserve day. So all these are valid suggestions, but Test cricket won't be the kind it was in the 60s, 70s, or even 80s. So these are little tweaks, and it comes with a lot of thought, and the intention is right, but it's going to make Test cricket marginally more relevant and more watchable, and get the numbers up only so slightly. But to expect Test cricket to go back to the glory days of as I said, the earlier decades, I think that's impossible.
Sanjay Manjrekar, Michael Holding, the former West Indian great and renowned commentator, you've done a lot of commentary with him in the box. He shared his disdain in the past for instant T20 cricket. He said he called T20 Barnum and Bailey circus entertainment, and said administrators are not doing enough to protect the test format. Do you share his cynicism about T20 cricket?
See, Michael Holding is a very intelligent man. So these are the kind of statements that get a lot of attention. But if you have a conversation like we are having right now, he'll explain to you exactly what he means by what he said. T20 cricket, the first time I saw it, I loved it. I loved the fact that it got over in 3.5 hours, and there was everything was sort of compacted, condensed. It was a little pocket of dynamite of cricket, a very small package where everything was happening in a quick time. And I like T20 cricket because you get an excellence of the other kind of cricket, like power hitting, the variety of ways that a batter is now getting runs, bowlers fighting back. So I see some kind of excellence in T20 cricket, and I'm always looking for excellence in anything that I'm watching. I don't want to see mediocrity, because you see that around you. If there's a special platform, it's got to be reserved for excellence. And T20 cricket, in my view, provides me that excellence. I know sometimes it's a little scripted. A team plays 19 overs of cricket where they've dominated the opposition, and 1 over can change the game and that team can lose, as we saw in the T20 World Cup. Those are the things that frustrate me. But I find T20 cricket watchable, provided there's quality in the hitting and bowling and fielding. I hate drop catches that we see in the IPL. And also the last IPL on T20 quality wasn't the highest. So as long as there is quality and excellence in T20 cricket, love it. 50 overs cricket, not a big fan, because it's neither this nor that.
We'll come to that, but I didn't think that you would be one of those who'd really be an enthusiast for T20. It's like Sanjay Manjrekar suddenly hitting a helicopter shot. I mean, I didn't put it down, but that's really interesting that you have an open mind like that. But one of the criticisms about T20 is, of course, forget about the trappings, etc., etc. But some people say it's open to manipulation, that there can be, as you said, and 6 balls can make a difference to the outcome. And therefore, it's not just a slam bam sort of contest, but you could have corruption. Does that concern you?
Corruption has got nothing to do with the format. If corruption has to happen, it will happen in all kinds of formats. And I'm not an expert on match fixing and spot fixing. Whatever little I know, the spot fixing can happen in Test cricket. I mean, it happened with Mohammad Amir. It was about bowling a no ball on a particular, in a particular over. So corruption has got nothing to do with the format, and it's something that is an unfortunate part of the kind of cricket that goes on. And because there's plentiful cricket being played around, there's more possibility of these kind of things happening, and that is why I think the value and the credibility of the tournament matters over everything, and that will come only from vigilance all the time, relentless vigilance on every game that's played to ensure that the people trust the product that they are invested in.
Well, some people say that people choose extremes. If you're talking about art imitating life, then two extremes: T20, 5-day, 50 overs is neither here nor there. Do you think we're going to see the decline of the 50 over game much before Test cricket?
See, Test cricket has already declined. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you make comparisons, the heydays of Test cricket versus today, it's declined both in quality and popularity. So let's accept that. 50 overs cricket also has seen a steady decline. It's just that the World Cup, the 50 overs World Cup, that has saved the format. We've had some great world events with the format 50 overs, like the 2019 World Cup was incredible, the final, and that has kept the format going. But when you start watching it as a viewer as well, you suddenly realize that the whole game is just going on in second and third gear, and very rarely it gets into top gear. We don't get to see nail biters as often as you would like. So that is a format that is steadily declining as well. You don't get to see that kind of frenzied following that 50 overs cricket had in the late 90s, 2000s, because people have other options. People still watch it, but they watch the marquee 50 overs world events, not the bilateral random 50 overs cricket that you get to see between two countries.
Very interesting. I want to ask you something slightly tangential. Now, we've seen cricketers specializing in different formats, and you have different captains, for example, now for different formats. Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma. Do you think this is good for the game? You have different formats, different players, different teams, different compositions, different skill sets, different captains.
I don't think there should be a principle, and the more I've lived life and more I've assumed different roles, parenting being another important one. I can't say that this is the way you parent a child, because I have a daughter and I have a son, and I use completely different methods to get the best out of them. So whatever works. If three captains are going to get your three teams to be brilliant, give them the best chance to win every game, so be it. So I don't think there is a principle that you've got to go by. Less captains, the better. But if it works and if the players are comfortable playing under three different captains, and if that is going to get the best out of your three teams, why not?
Does that work? I mean, you could be a captain leading a 5-day squad, and then you're just a player under another captain in the T20, and then there's the 50 overs, and it sort of creates a bit of dissonance. Do you believe in? And we've seen what's been transpiring in the news. Kohli, Sharma, this sort of talk about some sort of conflict, the BCCI itself sort of, being called into question. I mean, A, do you think this was handled properly? B, do you believe that, Rohit Sharma deserved what he has got and Mr. Kohli has been sort of slightly hard done? How do you view this? Because it's a very interesting aspect.
As I mentioned, three different captains for three formats is not the ideal scenario, but if you are left with no choice and that's going to get the best out of your three teams, so be it. As I said, there shouldn't be a guiding principle. But coming to Virat Kohli and this whole issue, and I've been away from India. In fact, it's early morning here in Atlanta, and I think it was -1 the night that I just woke up from. So completely different scenario. I've not been following that story closely, but my view has always been one thing, that one very important member of the Indian cricket administration is a guy who doesn't quite get the attention that he deserves, and that's the chairman of selectors, the chairman of the selection committee. So I don't know why there should have been a conversation publicly or any statement given by the president of the BCCI when really it is the job of the chairman of the selection committee who's made that choice. If you remember when Ricky Ponting was left out by Australia, there was a guy called John Inverarity who was the selector at the time, and people felt that Ricky Ponting should be getting one game as testimony or a testimonial game before we bid him goodbye. And John Inverarity is not a great cricketer. He's just a man with some integrity. He was the chairman of the selection committee of Australia, and he said that I don't think international cricket is meant for testimonial games and testimonies. We are going to drop Ricky Ponting, and they offered Ricky Ponting the option to retire on his own. And Ricky said, I want to keep playing. I'm okay if you guys drop me. But in that whole issue, the two figures that were involved was Ricky Ponting and the chairman of the selection committee. And I would have liked it better if that was the scenario here as well. Miscommunications and all the misunderstandings and everything has been happening over the years. But it should have been the chairman of the selection committee versus Virat Kohli. That would have been the right way to go about, and that would have been the more professional, what should I say, an image or exterior one should have seen.
So Ganguly should not have called Mr. Kohli. It should have been the chairman of selectors.
Ideally, it should have been the chairman of selection committee talking about people getting picked and dropped. I mean, come on, it is his job. And for years now, this trend has started where I just pick up a cricket fan from the street, ask him who's the chairman of the national selection committee. I doubt whether he'll know that. So that person has to get more visibility, more exposure, and people should know that this is the guy who's in charge of selection, of picking players, picking captains, dropping captains and players. I'm not happy with this trend of the national select of the chairman not being as important. And I've always believed, it's very interesting, Rahul, that because we're talking generally a lot about Indian cricket, that appointment of the coach becomes a huge thing in the media. And there's a special committee that appoints a coach. The selectors don't do that. Whereas the most important person when it comes to a member outside the team, the squad, is the chairman of selectors. A chairman of selector can single-handedly change the course of Indian cricket. Raj Singh Dungarpur, when he appointed Mohammad Azharuddin as the captain in the 90s and called that team the team of the 90s, changed the course of Indian cricket. And that person, if he's allowed to do his job, has immense power and influence. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case.
I mean, many people are also saying, for example, that perhaps Virat Kohli shouldn't have gone to the press, or he shouldn't have sort of held forth on this issue in the press. Where do you stand on that?
You could easily see that Virat Kohli was rattled with the news. And let's, be understanding. We're all human beings. I've been a player myself, and there have been certain developments in your career that happen. You handle some pretty well. Sometimes you lose control. And it was, I'm sure, Virat Kohli was rattled by the news and wanted to get something off his chest. And it's really, in the end, his word against the other.
There were so many variations between what Virat Kohli said and the public stand taken by Ganguly through his tweets, etc. There were so many differences. I mean, who would you go with in a situation like this?
It's a very dangerous question and very dangerous question to answer. Salim Khan, Salim Khan
Yes.
of Salim Javed,
Yeah.
Salman's father.
Yes.
He had told me once that to really know a person, you've got to stay in his house and eat 1,000 kilos of his salt in his house. Basically, saying that you've got to live with that person for a long time before you really get to know the person. I don't think I know Virat Kohli well enough. and Saurav Ganguly well enough to know, uh, who's the one who's telling the real story or who's lying, who's not.
But do you believe that, because we haven't heard from Saurav Ganguly, we tried to, of course, track him down and get him to respond, but he sort of said that we will respond in time. Now, do you think he should come out and make a statement? And do you believe that that will end the problem if he comes out and contradicts Virat and says, look, I actually don't see it quite this way. This is what happened. Virat, you were slightly, not quoting me right or weren't very accurate with the facts. Do you think that would help?
I don't think you'll hear anything on this matter anymore. We, of course, in the media would want to keep this alive in some way, but the parties involved, I don't think will be adding any more.
So what is this, in your mind, what is this a reflection of? The lack of transparency when it comes to the BCCI and the manner in which it acts? Or do you just believe that players sometimes begin to think that they can dictate terms and they're bigger than the game?
No, this is something that has happened historically over the years. There's always been a kind of, there's been players versus selectors. There's been a player who's part of the 1983 World Cup team who called the selectors clowns. So it's all that has happened over the years. And you've got to understand, a player goes through a lot. And sometimes, when you're captain, you expect to be treated in a certain manner. Virat Kohli must have thought, his T20 captaincy is given away. And he still had a bulk of the leadership of Indian cricket with him. So the 50 overs captaincy being taken away from him must have been a huge, whether he was told or not told, is what we are focusing on. And rightly so, because it's something that's interesting to look at. But the fact is the chairman of selectors has complete freedom and right to drop him whenever he wants to. And ideally, and I hope, knowing, Chetan, that he would have communicated that to Virat Kohli. It may have come to him as a shock and he reacted in a certain way. But this is, when you look at the two parties, Ganguly and Virat Kohli, is just one man's word against the other.
Which is a rather unfortunate place to be in, I suppose, when you're going off to play a good team like South Africa in South Africa.
I don't think that is such an issue. It's something that always gets talked about, whether he'll be in the right frame of mind going into the next test with that controversy. Once we see so Rabada at the top of his bowling mark and you as a batter taking your mark, you forget all those things because these are far more important things to dwell on. And, Virat Kohli is an incredible, batter. And when he's angered, you get the best out of him. So he always is out there to prove something. I think he also has this make-believe world that is created that everybody is against him. And I feel that's a subconscious mind, just egging him on to just play better and better because his celebrations are angry and he's always angry at the world. But that drives him to play better. And that is, I think, what he plays for. He sets his own kind of, benchmark and goals. And if at all, I think this controversy and the news that has happened, and I'm sure he's hurt, knowing Virat Kohli, 5 years captaincy, 50 years captaincy taken away from him must have really shook him. But you'll see all that being used to take his test batsmanship to the next level.
Well, one hopes so. Thank you very much, Sanjay Manjrekar. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you as always. You present the broadest bat to any ball that comes your way. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The Newshour 10 Agenda.